Hi attendee. This is Jala De Silva. I'll be your host for today's webinar. I welcome you all for this very interesting, very insightful webinar, Unleashing Your MBA Potential, Igniting Learning Beyond Traditional Classroom Walls. We have a very, very interesting, a very, very insightful and expert panel joining us for today's webinar today. We have Dr. Prabhu Agarwal, who's the director at Badruka School of Management. Dr. Agarwal is the founder and president of EduServe Global Association, focusing on higher education advisory. He has leadership roles in many, many prestigious institutions like the Bennington University, NIT University, and his career has spread across, with his name being associated with multiple known institutions in the United States. He's an active speaker, consultant, teacher, researcher in operations management, along with publications in leading journals. Welcome, Professor Prabhu Agarwal. We also have with us Nidhi Reddy. She is the senior advisor at Badruka School of Management with over 2 decades of experience in the higher education sector. She has led establishments of multiple universities and programs in Ladakh, Chennai, and Nigeria. She was also the senior director, admissions and finances, financial aid at the Indian School of Business before joining Badruka School of Management. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you for having agreed to do this.
Much.
Thank you very much, Elda.
So this is a very interesting topic that we have for today, which is around the evolution of MBA and going beyond classroom when it comes to learning. Traditionally, when we look at MBA, we looked at it as a degree that created leaders, created managers. However, the definition of the degree, however, has changed over the period of time, with now students looking at it as a skill development option and an option that helps you establish yourself as an expert in a certain field or area. What is your take on the evolution of MBA, let's say from 2001 to today, and what are the major trends that you attribute to bring about this change for this MBA today?
You asking me the question?
Yes, sir. You or ma'am, both of you can answer.
Okay, so I think we'll have to put that a little bit in context. At the end of the day, MBA is a degree, it's a professional degree, which is meant for students who are graduated and are seeking a career in business as a management position across different domains: strategy, innovation, marketing, accounting, operations. Those are some of the traditional areas. So between 2001 and now, the major changes that have happened is the changes in the workplace and the way things are happening in the workplace. Of course, it goes without saying that a lot of business is getting shaped by what's happening on the technology front, not only in terms of artificial intelligence and big data and the sheer power of computers, which allows all that to happen. It's also a consciousness now, much greater consciousness towards climate and sustainability. That has taken off in a big way with the climate change and the big issues that surround carbon neutrality. Businesses have to, if they have to survive, they have to be very conscious about how to run their businesses in a very climate sustainable manner. So that is a second driver. So number one was technology. Technology has been around forever. It's just that the change of technology, the pace of change has rapidly increased. And so the things that have changed around those things. And third, and I think in a ways, which has been around for a while, but the business world is more and more global and connected. The supply chains are connected. There is a huge impetus on how does one navigate through very complex geopolitical and complex logistical issues when it comes to the supply chain issues. But at the same time, fundamentally, what was kind of key in 2001 versus now is that there are some core skills that are required of our students, which is focused on issues of holistic development, of experiential learning, adaptability, critical thinking, problem solving, leadership. Uh, those are very much key and have only gotten even more pronounced in today's the employers are looking for it in a more pronounced way. And I think one more distinction is that we live in a world now which is really driven by entrepreneurship and innovation. The number of startups and the technology has enabled has created this huge space in entrepreneurship and innovation that probably 20, 25 years ago did not exist. So I think that is the key change I see what's happened to MBA education. And in that context, it I think is even more relevant today than it was maybe 20, 25 years ago because of the complexities in the new workplace and what an MBA curriculum can do for a student in terms of addressing entrepreneurship, innovation, global perspectives, and um, digital transformations, as well as climate sustainability issues.
Got it, Dr. Agarwal. Thank you for answering that question for me. Nidhi, I hand over to you. You may go ahead and take this webinar ahead.
Thank you, Jilda. Dr. Agarwal, it's while you were talking about the whole MBA program, I couldn't help but think about how your own experiences in some way have, not just not really colored the response, but have an impact on what you believe the MBA program is addressing. You worked and you've studied all across the world and in different areas, right? You've dabbled in technology, you've dabbled in management, you've done some entrepreneurial work, you've done a lot of work in sustainability and so on. Why don't you quickly tell us a little bit about your journey and how that sort of shaped you?
Oh, nice. Okay. Actually, my journey is pretty plain vanilla. There's nothing remarkable about it. I graduated in the mid-'80s from IIT Kanpur with a BTech in mechanical engineering, and there are very few choices we had at that time. So unlike a lot of students who are coming out today who have so many options, both in the private and public sectors. But anyways, I did go abroad immediately after my undergraduate studies, and I started pursuing an MBA just for the sheer fact that I did not like engineering. I mean, there was no other reason. I like, what can I do if I don't want to be an engineer? So the first natural choice was get an MBA and then chase big money, which is how I started getting into the MBA in the mid-'80s. But during my MBA career, I actually realized a few things about myself, which is I don't like I don't really want to be working for a big organization. I was more driven towards academics. So the natural choice was to pursue a PhD, and it took me 6 long years to do that. Post that, I joined a university, which is the second oldest university in the US. I worked there for 21 years. It's quite remarkable that I did that. And I came to India about 12 years ago with a very clear conscience that I need to come back and do some other stuff and kind of some institutional building activities. But if you ask me when I was getting into the MBA, if I knew that I would be running 3, 4 higher education institutions in my life, I could have never imagined it. I also have worked very, very extensively in the industry. I've connected the dots of theory and practice that way. I was the chief learning officer for a very large steel and power company with almost 5,000 executives and 25,000 strong workforce, which really opens up a plethora of options for somebody who has been in a academic mindset for a long time, and really shows you the mirror that theories are good, but unless until you can connect those theories to practice, then really the classroom, the enrichment of the teaching that one entails in the classroom is so enriched by your industry experiences. And as you kind of grow through the ranks and you teach undergraduates and graduates and then executive eds, you just need that thing. So I think, yeah, you're right. I've worked across geographies. I've worked across small startups. I've built large institutions. It's been a remarkable journey, and I just think my second innings is yet to start. So I don't know what that entails.
Dr. Agarwal, it's funny you say that. Research shows that students or people who are graduating now, young people who are graduating now, are going to change their careers at least 4 to 6 times in their lives. And you've done that a couple of times, even though it was in this whole, structure around academia. But you've been an academic, you've been a dean, you've been an administrator, you've been a consultant, you've done all these things. And do you feel that your MBA education sort of equipped you to move a little bit seamlessly in some ways and equipped you to find these new opportunities?
Yeah, I think it did for sure. I mean, I think one of the things that you end up realizing when you are attending a residential MBA program, especially very rigorous residential MBA program, you're living and working with a cohort of 90, 100, 150 really bright people, and they become partners with you throughout your life. And of course, you bank upon them for a lot of wisdom and courage and thought, you can share a lot of stuff with them. So in a ways, the MBA is where I started learning teamwork. I started learning how to work in collaboratively. I learned a lot of skills there, a lot of leadership skills, right? I mean, you don't realize that early on when you're 20 years something and you're coming out of an MBA program, what leadership means. So yes, for sure. I mean, there were some critical skills. I mean, you're also right that I've only had one job in my life, to be honest. I've only worked for one university for 21 years. After that, I morphed into, as you said, a consultant, a entrepreneur, a teacher, a professor, an advisor, but all in this same kind of comfort zone that I live in, which is something to do with academics. And it's really interesting. I'm more recently now getting all excited about teaching again, which is where I started my career, and I think it's going back towards that. So I just thoroughly enjoy the intellectual stimulation that comes with teaching
Yeah.
young minds. And I think you're right. I mean, I can't pinpoint one thing in the MBA program that did it for me, but I know that it has a huge impact. I'm actually more so than my engineering background.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I'm going to be quite politically incorrect. In our country, in India, the engineering is sort of a default degree, and don't hold me to it. But parents really push their students and their wards to go ahead and do that. So if you're a good student, you do engineering, right? But the MBA sort of gives a little bit of a larger framework for you to operate in. So yes, you need to know the quantitative skills, and you need to have the quantitative skills, but you really need to have a lot more to flourish in that environment. And this brings me to the question, and you were talking about it, that you get energized in the classroom, but a residential program, the entire campus is your classroom in some sense, whether it's inside the classroom or outside the classroom. Learning continues to happen, right? And what's your take on learning outside the classroom? It could be from your peers, it could be from faculty who are staying on campus. It could be from guest lectures or activities. But what do you think? What does that add to that entire MBA experience?
I think there is no comparison. I mean, the new age learner is looking for a lot of different options. A blended learning solution fitting into a working professional is looking at maybe finding the time to upskill or reskill or learn new technologies. And for them, it makes sense to do evening programs. It makes sense to do weekend programs because the reality is that it's not practical for them to put away a job for 2 years or 1 year. But I think for a graduate who has recently graduated and has maybe graduated last year or has 2 or 3 years of work experience, I think the residential MBA program is a very different beast. And it goes back to all the, in a ways, things that I was alluding to.
Mhm.
And this goes back to I was a residential student in my BTech degree also, so I know that campus life and what it means, and what to me a residential life brings. Number one is network. I
Mhm.
mean, you build your network starting on the campus, whether it's IIT Kanpur or whether it's your MBA program. Those people are for life, your network. Okay. These connections are extremely important, and you will never ever be able to do those, I believe, if you are not a part of that residential life. You're eating, sleeping, crying, getting abused at the same time, and you're taking all the whatever negative words I can think of in my brain is being dished out to you, but you're all collectively getting it, and that's what makes you so strong together. The residential experience really, really reinforces experiential learning, such as teams, case competitions, simulations, late night assignments you're working on, uh, teamwork, collaboration. Okay, it's a very interactive learning environment. Um, it's intensive, lot more intensive than you can imagine. Uh, you're in a your face-to-face interactions uh, with your colleagues, with your peers, with your faculty really facilitate what I would say effective communication, collaboration, and mentorship.
Mm.
uh,
Yeah,
I mean, it
absolutely.
essentially it's a very cohesive learning
Yeah,
community.
yeah.
And there is, I think, there is no replacement for a residential
And I don't
program.
think there's any top program which is a non-residential program. A top MBA
It,
program, I
it
would
can't be.
hesitate. It can't be.
Yeah, it can't be.
Yeah,
I mean, somewhere down the line, you are 40 years old and you want to become, you
that's a
want to like
different
join.
beast
That's a different
altogether.
ball
Mm,
game. I mean,
yeah,
I've
yeah,
done that. I've ran executive MBA
yeah, yeah.
programs, and I can
That's a
see
different
real value to that. Even there, they will insist on doing in-campus
immersions and
residency,
yes,
one
residencies.
week long every semester. Just the fact that you don't connect with people is very important.
I always say that there are three things that I took away from my business education at ISP, right? One, of course, I learned how to think, learned frameworks of how to think, how to break down problems and how to think better, and how to find solutions, right? So that's what the in classroom learning gave me in some sense. I'm not so sure I remember the equations very well, but the concept of how to think was taught. The second, of course, as you alluded to and you spoke about it, the network that you carry. I mean, you can call up anybody from your network anywhere across the world, and you have a solution to your questions, support to any problem that you're facing, or you find co-founders, investors, vendors, customers, all in your network, right? So that's the second thing I got out of my business education. And that's what a great business education gives you. And the third, you really find inspirational people, whether they are your peers, whether they are your faculty, whether they are people who come to guest lecture you. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it right now. It takes me back to my student days, but it just enhances you as a person when you get inspired day in and day out. So yeah, I mean, a business education is quite valuable when you think about it that way. That brings me to something that you just mentioned about experiential learning, and perhaps we can bring in the Badruka school at this point. I see that the curriculum that is being developed by us has a lot of industry collaboration and experiential learning. Uh, can you throw a little bit of light on that aspect of this 2-year program?
You know, the word experiential basically to me means to experience it. I
Mhm.
mean, that's like being just as simplistic as possible.
Mhm.
So, how do you experience what you're learning in the classroom in the real world?
Mhm.
What are the connects you can make? Um, there are some obvious pathways for that, case studies and projects that you work on. if you have the right faculty who are bringing very relevant case studies that are up to date, that are addressing some of the latest trends in management, you are in a ways experiencing those in a debate. Projects are very important, live projects. If at Badruka we plan to every 3 months introduce a live project where a student is given a project by our industry partners, um, so that they're working on solving a problem without any defined boundaries necessarily. A clear experiential piece is the internship opportunity during the summer, where you you do go and work on a internship for 6 to 8 weeks in a real organization where they're evaluating you as much as you're evaluating them in terms of whether you want to be part of them, because they're looking at a potential pre-placement offer for you. Um, Another great way to introduce experiential learning in the classroom is to probably do a series of master classes with industry experts who bring a perspective to the class maybe once a month to twice a term or something like that, where they address the class on some really hotbed topics. You can do workshops on very selected topics led by industry experts. A really good thing that's happening these days in business education is simulation exercises. Simulations are being brought into the classroom that try to simulate a lot of the uh, unknowns in the real world, and creating mathematical and simulation models around them. Last but not least, another kind of stretch of my imagination would be a mentorship program where I can pair up every student with an industry mentor so that he or she is getting the feedback and counseling maybe 4 or 5
R-
times a
Yeah,
year.
yeah, right
In
from the word go.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, experiential is a very big name, big word.
And you are
How do
trying
you
to bring in,
yeah.
yeah.
Basically, the idea is, how do I get outside the classroom? In
Mm-hmm.
the classroom, you learn. It's a
Mm-hmm.
fixed teaching pedagogy. There is little flexibility. There is very little with individualization of the curriculum learning. So experiential is everything that a traditional classroom environment breaks
Yeah.
and puts you in a different framework.
You know, you alluded to this in your opening remarks when Gelda asked you this question also. Digital literacy and tech literacy is as basic as, math and English or language in today's world, right? So how does the BSM program bring those aspects into the studio program?
Oh,
Because I
absolutely.
know
I think,
they are doing some very cool things. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. You're right, absolutely. The digital and tech literacy are as basic today as accounting and finance literacy. And because future businesses are going to be very tech driven. And so at Badruka, we are focusing on some very critical uh, so-called digital and tech literacy areas. We are focused on data analytics, how to interpret data and tools and techniques such as statistical analysis, visualization, all that stuff that comes with it, the narratives around it. How do you make data-driven decisions? Okay. We are going to be focused on digital marketing. I mean, as you notice, almost all marketing is shifting or is shifting from print and traditional media to online social media. And
Mhm.
so exactly what does this all entail is extremely important to understand. Uh, so many businesses are now built on e-commerce platforms and don't even exist in a brick and mortar structure, whether it's the food delivery apps, the OTTs. So we have a course on e-commerce and digital business models that we have introduced in the BSM curriculum. Uh, as you have
Yeah.
already known, the big words out there are AI, blockchain, IoT, ML.
Mhm.
So, am I going to create AI experts through the BSM program? No. who am I going to create? I'm going to create somebody who is very, very comfortable with AI, its adoption, digital transformation, understanding what it means for business transformation. And yeah, actually, we will do some Python program also, to be honest. We'll give you a rudimentary set of tools also. So if
So
it
this is not to,
spurs you on.
but this is not to scare the non-tech
No, no, no,
folks,
I'm not
right?
scaring anybody. No, no, I'm not scaring anybody. Absolutely not.
So even
And there's
even
a lot of
somebody,
digital leadership
yeah.
and change management and digital transformation. I mean,
Mhm.
digital transformation is rapidly picking up. So I
Mhm.
think through these very selected, in fact, we have I think, a major in innovation and
Yes.
digital transformation,
Yeah.
precisely for this reason,
I think, yeah,
because we
data.
see
Yeah.
this as the future, at least the
Mhm.
foreseeable future.
Mhm. So, the curriculum is so interesting, so that you have this focus on tech and data, but you also have this parallel track which is running uh, across the whole MBA program, which you call essential skills and perspectives. And that's a fascinating track. I see things like some liberal arts subjects over there. I see things that people call soft skills but are not, like presentation skills and critical thinking and problem solving and all of those things. So what really drove you to add this entire track to this MBA program? Because this is something which is not seen in MBA programs anywhere, at least not
So
in this
again,
part
I
of the
think
world.
if
Yeah.
you look at, I was recently looking at some World Economic Forum data from 2023, and they were talking about what kind of MBA student skill sets are they looking for. So
Mhm.
while there was tech on the top and all that
Mm.
stuff, right? Somebody was comfortable in the tech world. Going back to what I said in 2001 versus now, there are some core abilities of adaptability, resilience, communication, teamwork, collaboration that have not gone away. In fact, they've become even more relevant in today's business world, with the growing, what we call the VUCA world of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity.
Mhm.
It's not going away. So how do we address some of these challenges? And I think what we thought about is that we're going to do, every other term some 12 of these essential skills and perspective classes, which will help students develop holistically, will get a chance to hone their leadership and professional development skills, will get a chance to dabble into global and cultural perspectives, will get a chance for demonstrating adaptability and resilience. A big thing remains is communications, interpersonal skills. And I think the one thing that always gets overlooked is creating ethical leaders
Mhm.
and the question of ethics. I think these ideas resonate, tech or no tech. I think, in fact, to some extent, maybe tech is driving more of this.
Yeah.
Tech is
Yeah.
saying it that how do you remain human?
Mhm.
Right? I mean, if tech's gonna do it all for you, then
Yeah.
what's the point of a human being? And what differentiates a human from tech or a robot or an AI machine is the cognitive abilities. So unless until we understand those internally and are able to impart those and let you develop as a young professional with these ethical qualities and these human elements, that is what drives us into ESP, essential skills and perspectives, which is a
Mhm.
combination of creating young leaders who are going to lead the business world tomorrow ethically
Mhm.
and collaboratively, passionately.
Mhm.
There are issues of diversity, inclusivity,
Yeah.
sensitivities around it, which is really important, and I think are not going away. No text
Yes.
replacing them. And
Absolutely.
that's really where it's coming from.
This actually highlights two things for me. I just remembered this. One, I was asking somebody who is a CEO of a Fortune 500 company that, how do you recruit? How do you find young people who you want to have in your team. So one is, of course, the company recruits, and how do you find or handpick people for your teams? And so he had a very interesting answer to that. He said that, skills are hygiene, knowledge is a little hygiene, and all that is fine. But if I can spend a long haul flight with this person, 15 hours in a metal tube with this person, and find that interesting and engaging, then I'm going to hire that person. And what this essential skills and perspectives does to you is, as you said, make you a really well-rounded person, but also develop your interests beyond tech and finance and marketing, right? It forces you to think very differently. So I find that very fascinating. And the second thing, this brings me to is, in some ways, the essential skills and perspectives is a way for BSM students to be employed better, right? For recruiters to find them more valuable in some sense, right? And to your sense, how are you thinking about recruiters and placements for a young school like BSM?
So, Nidhi, before I answer your question, I want to actually step back a little bit. I
Mm-hmm,
think the ESP track, as much is for preparing the student for better outcomes in the real world,
mm-hmm,
I also think it also shapes the individual today,
mm-hmm,
the student, to
mm-hmm.
better think for himself or themselves as
Absolutely,
to what
absolutely.
they are really cut out for. Are what exactly are they looking for? We have
Mm-hmm,
gotten into this chase for ROI, the first salary, the average package, without thinking through as a student when we're getting out, is this something I would actually thrive or be part of? Am I a born leader? Have I thrived in setting up student clubs?
mm-hmm,
Hey, since we are setting up this as a new university,
mm-hmm,
this is the founding batch, right?
mm-hmm,
Which
mm-hmm,
comes with enormous responsibilities as well as tremendous amount of freedoms to reshape the entire or to shape the culture
mm-hmm.
of Badruka School of Management through student clubs and activities and policies. So some of these students will get a real chance to demonstrate leadership capabilities. And I think sometimes we just get lost in this herd mentality. We get lost in chasing the consulting firms, the investment banking firms, the sales and marketing, the FMCG, big names without realizing where we fit in. Do we have that entrepreneurial bug? Do we want to bite that? How do we take it forward? So that was one aspect. Now come to your question, which I forgot what it was.
No, I was saying that you are preparing students to be that much more attractive to recruiters by giving them this whole gamut of experiences. Of course, giving them a very, very solid business education, but also giving them this extra icing on the cake, your essential skills and perspectives, your experiential learning, and so on. So, how are you thinking about placements? Um, can you tell us a little bit about the professional placement team that you're putting together? And
Oh yeah, we're going to have a very strong so it's actually we're working on three aspects when it comes to placements. One is we're going to have a very professional team who will be networking with um, the recruiters that we are interested in. That's number one. And they will be working very closely with our students and trying to understand what they're looking for, and also trying to build their resumes and do all the basic hygiene stuff. Let's put it this way. The second really important aspect of our end consumer when it comes to placements is industry. So we are very keen and are building an industry advisory board. We hope to have 25, 30, 35, 40 CXO level people on this board
you already
who
have a lot of them.
we have a 7, 8 from them. We have BCG on board. We have Google on board. We have Mr. Reddy, who's the MD of Hyderabad Metro on board. We have
DE
couple of
Shaw, and we have a
D.
bunch
Shaw, the
of,
MD of D. Shaw,
we
and I
have some
mean we
venture
just
capitalists and so
we
on.
have
Yeah.
some couple of VCs. So I think those are we are in touch with the Telangana State Entrepreneurship Council. So obviously those things help tremendously. We want them to be involved with us. There's no direct ask, but just having them there and their passion for us will create this second level of our interactions with the industry. And the third most important aspect is we fail to understand that the Badruka Education Society is a 75-year-old organization, which
Hmm.
has some
Deep
40, 50,
connects.
60,
Yeah.
70 deep connects in the industry. And they
Mhm.
continue to place their commerce students from their undergraduate programs.
Mhm.
And they are very willing to talk to us and let us allow and we are leveraging those connects. So really, those are the cornerstones of the things we are doing for career services right now.
So if I may just recap that, we have a professional team that will help students through the journey or through the 2 years for summer placements as well as final placements, including prep and lifelong learning and so on. Uh, we have this team going and building bridges and connections with multiple corporate partners as well as governments. And of course, we have this industry advisory board as well as the existing relationships of the Badruka,
Yeah, those are really
society. Yeah,
the three cornerstones of
yeah,
what we are
yeah,
doing. We are well connected. We know a lot of good people
yeah,
individually that we are bringing on board. And I think at the end of the day, if our product should speak for ourselves.
yeah,
And
yeah,
our product is that student who we can graduate, which is ready to work from day one. And a good student is what we're looking for so that
yeah.
we can unleash that potential. And I think the other key ingredient of Badruka is the fact that our faculty is not a tagline world class, but they are world class, meaning they are coming from across the world with educational backgrounds, varying from the Kellogg's to Fisher School to uh, University of Washington. That's a plug for myself. Anyways, long stuff. I mean, and I should also mention that the architects of our program are the people who designed the likes of ISB, by the way.
Yeah. And I believe even the Bit School of
The
Management,
Birla
yeah,
Institute of Technology School of
yeah,
Management in
management, yeah,
Bombay is
yeah.
also being built by the same team.
Uh-huh.
Ashoka's founders are closely related to us. So
Mhm.
I think that kind of speaks about the quality with which we are dealing.
So, the faculty was something that I really wanted to ask you because again, I don't remember much from my MBA business education, and I'm very sorry that I don't, but I use what I learned on a daily basis. And I'm talking about not the hard skills, but more the feeling and the people and the inspiration that I found. And a lot of that inspiration was through world class faculty. And how are you bringing people together for this exciting program? You just spoke about some of the names that people are associated with. People have done their PhDs from there, etc. But what is your one criteria for somebody who can teach at the school? What would you like
So,
that
okay.
faculty to be
Yeah,
able to do?
so many of these people are personally known to me through my own academic connections, through your academic connections.
Mm-hmm,
They have taught for us in multiple locations
mm-hmm,
in some of the best programs, whether they are ISB, BITS, or whatever those might be.
mm-hmm,
But here's the important part. When you go to a university that does not leverage this kind of a faculty model where basically 18 courses are being taught by 18 different individuals who work at 18 different institutions,
mm-hmm,
right? So they're
mm-hmm,
not burdened by anything. They don't bring any legacy. They bring their own thought processes.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
If they worked for Badruka and they were Badruka faculty, very much they would become Badruka, whatever, branded
mm-hmm,
Badruka. They would then have that same mindset. Here,
mm-hmm,
somebody is coming from the Fisher School and doing what he does best. Somebody is coming from Hampton University. He or she's doing her best. Somebody is coming from somewhere in Singapore, somewhere in Dubai. Some of the faculty from India are also IIMs. I
yeah.
mean, they bring a different perspective. They're not burdened. They
Mhm.
are willing to go out and do what they want to do. And we
Mhm.
know most of these people, they are actually, they're deans and senior faculty members, passionate
Oh.
academicians,
Mhm.
and have been in their positions for years.
And they're teaching the whole course. It's not guest lectures or anything, right?
So I
So they
think I
are.
want to make one thing very clear.
Uh-huh.
This we have to be very clear about this
Mm.
so-called whatever we call it, the value. We are not
Mhm.
having a visiting faculty member come and give a visiting guest lecture. No, a
Mhm.
visiting faculty member means he or she will speak or teach the entire course.
Term, the
That
entire
is why we
course.
have this something called a block teaching methodology, where
Mhm.
the student is captive to a faculty member to facilitate the movement of international and national faculty to campus. And
Mhm.
we are able to then create this diverse pool of,
Mhm.
and I will use the tag world-class faculty now,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
it means that that's what it means.
Yeah,
And
I like to
so I think,
use the word rock star faculty because they absolutely are. I'm so
yes, some of them
excited
are
to
rock
see.
stars, I mean,
Yeah.
there are some anomalies there like me, but that's okay.
You're too humble and too modest. But at that juncture, Gelda, do you want to take some questions now? I think we have 15 minutes, and I think this is a good segue into questions.
Yeah, thanks, Nidhi, and thanks, Dr. Raghav, for allowing us to be part of this very interesting conversation. I'm sure our attendees, me including, actually have received wonderful insight in terms of the wonderful, wonderful work that Bhadrika Institute of Management is currently doing.
Mhm.
Thanks a lot for that. We have a few questions coming in from the students that we like to take up right now. The first question is from Sufi. Uh, what what are the kind of facilities that are provided once you enroll for the 2-year program? I believe they are asking in terms of the stay and accommodation.
Okay.
Say that
You
again. I think Nidhi will take that. I
Yeah,
didn't catch.
this
Yes.
is regarding campus facilities, Dr. Agarwal. I think what facilities exist on campus. By the way, I encourage whoever wants to come visit us. Our campus is on the just a little bit beyond Mechal in Hyderabad. It's a very large campus built on 16 acres, surrounded by 500 acres of agricultural land. Very beautiful. We have lovely hostels, or rather student residences. I hesitate to call them hostels. We have facilities for games. Of course, we have the dining areas, we have recreation areas, and we have state of the art classrooms. So I encourage everybody to come take a look. Every student gets an individual room. You're not expected to share. So please come and take a look. So we have a lot of facilities that you can take advantage of.
And just to fill in the gap, it's a hot city, so it's all air conditioned.
Oh, it's all air conditioned. Oh my God. Yes, yes, we should say that.
Yeah, I think it's a very self-contained campus, and it's not something we are focused on filling up to the hilt with, you know, we are being
Buildings or
very,
any of
yeah,
that.
very
Yeah, yeah.
selective right now. We're going slow. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a self-contained campus. It's about a 45-minute drive north of the
Yeah.
center
From,
of
yeah, from,
Sikandrabad. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, Gelda.
Got it. Our next question is from Rishabh Jain. Are there international placements?
Dr. Agarwal,
Rishabh,
yeah, you
yeah,
want to
so
take that? Yeah.
I'll try to answer that two ways. I think we will, as we spoke, we have a summer internship program in place, but we also will allow our students to replace that internship with a um, opportunity to go abroad and spend maybe a semester abroad, and or a look at a internship outside. Clearly, we would like to have some of those, and we're definitely going to work hard to bring some international exposure, either through short study abroad programs or through some internship opportunities that will pop up.
Just to add
And
to that,
remember, some of our faculty members are coming from internationally. If you can somehow leverage a relationship with them,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
may be happy to host you over the summer working on their research projects.
And Dr. Agrawal, if I can add over there, a lot of multinationals, we have relationships with a lot of multinationals like Deloitte and so on and so forth. Even schools like the IIMs and ISB, uh, it's the India entities that hire students from campus and then sort of transfer them to their international head offices, right? So there's a lot of mobility and international placements that happen through that route because of visa issues and so on and so forth. And
It's true.
I expect some of that to happen at BSM.
I'm almost envious of the people who are graduating in the next coming 2-3 years from
I
MBA programs. The amount of opportunities that exist, not just in India, but
I
abroad
wish.
for Indian
Yeah,
students are
yeah.
enormous. I mean, the next 2 decades have to be India's decade. I think India was always an and or story. I think the or is gone. It's
Mhm.
an and it's a
And
country that
how?
will grow.
And
And
how?
how?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
how? Yeah, I
yeah.
think from an or. I used to
Yeah,
call it an experiment until 10 years ago, but
yeah.
for whatever reasons, demographic dividends, more policy stability, and the world is flocking, and they will continue because this is where the markets are.
Mhm,
And yeah, we're starting from a relatively smaller base, but
mhm.
uh, very quickly we'll join the third largest economy of the world. And
Yeah,
15 years from now, we're not too far away. And
yeah.
the young people out there are the architects of that next. And I think the biggest challenge is talent in India
Mhm.
that businesses are looking for. And they just need people.
Yeah.
So
There is so much. Yeah.
there aren't any scarcity of jobs.
Mhm.
So it's
If
our
you
job to prepare them.
if you're really high quality and if you prep for that, then of course there's no scarcity. I mean, good people, Dr. Agarwal, you would hire in a jiffy, and so would companies, right? You just
Oh
have to
yeah,
become good and you have
that's a
to,
global phenomena.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
global phenomena.
yeah.
So I
Zelda.
don't know, Rishabh, if that's a roundabout answer to your question, but
No, I think we answered that. Yeah. Yeah, Zelda.
Yeah, I guess we got there.
Hmm.
Along with that, we have another question. It's about the PGDM program. Is it AIU certified or is it equivalent to MBA?
So this program is certified by AICTE. The whole program as well as BSM is certified by AICTE, which is the premier body for regulation around professional degrees and the MBA. And we are not allowed to call it MBA officially, but it is MBA plus plus. So it is all that the MBA entails plus a lot more. Dr.
unless
Agarwal, if
until
you
we
want
are a
to, yeah,
no, unless until we are a part of the UGC and a university system, you cannot offer an MBA.
yeah,
It's a postgraduate diploma in management, which till even recently, even every IIM was only allowed to give a PGDM and not an
yeah,
MBA. Only
yeah.
2 years ago they changed it, or some 3 years back. I'm not sure when that.
Very recently, and I think
Very
some of
recently.
that has not even been put in us,
Yeah.
right? In fact, the ISB MBA has no recognition. I don't know if you know that, Dr.
Yeah. Well,
Agarwal.
I didn't want it to go down that road. Yeah, I do know that. It technically you can't apply for a government job if you require a
Yeah,
master's
yeah.
degree. So, anyways,
Yeah. No, so literally, of course, there's no difference between the MBA and the PGDBM program. It's the same sort of qualification. But it's just that we are not officially allowed to, unless you're a full-fledged university, you don't do MBAs.
so I have a question
I guess,
that I'll take. Are any career services available to students after the MBA? Oh, absolutely. I think we are going to nurture our alumni forever. Um,
Yeah.
I learned something from the CEO of London Business School. He said that we are in the monopoly business. And I said, what do you mean? He said, only by going to the London School Business School, you can become an alumni of the London Business School. No other place can get you that entree. And when we bring somebody on to London Business School, our proposition is that we will hold your hand through your life. And I hope I can bring that same culture to BSM. You have heard about Badruka, but not BSM. Yeah, that's true. The only commonality here is the society. Everything else is independent. BSM has its own faculty, own curricula, separate location, very nothing to do with the Bedrook Education Society, other than the fact of the goodwill.
The goodwill. Yeah. Zelda, if there's anything you want to focus on.
Yes, we have a question from Mahesh Sharma. Sir, do you recommend an engineer to do an MBA, even though they are in a tech-oriented role?
We spoke about this quite a lot through the WADA, but Dr. Agarwal, yes.
So at one point in time, every IIM graduate was a tech engineer. 98% of them were IIT graduates. I don't necessarily see it that way. I really leave it to you. Where is your inclination? I know I was not an engineer. I didn't want to be doing it. So how can I recommend something to an individual whom I don't know, to be honest?
Yeah.
Being an engineer is not a disqualification for doing an MBA.
Yeah.
And you will actually excel in some pieces.
Yeah.
Wherever your left brain is working, you'll do great in the math courses, and then you'll struggle like me in HR and OB, where you have to actually talk about people and understand people. You will slip up. That was my experience. I hated HR, OB, even though I realize now, 40 years down the line, that those are probably the most important things I
Valuable.
should have learned.
Yeah.
Because you can
But
solve a math equation, but
but
so
I think it's about, do you want to remain in a very specialized tech role,
yeah,
or do you want to do a lot more? Right? I think
tech
that's
won't
the
open you up.
question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
tech
So
won't open you up.
that's the question you need to ask yourself. So do you want to do other things, and maybe go on to the same management side of tech companies, or get into product management, or get into those kinds of things? That's when
Possible.
engineers should definitely think of a business education. But if you're happy doing a hardcore tech role, then that's a decision you should make for absolutely. Yeah. And just like not
Okay, the next question.
everybody, Zelda, just like not everybody is equipped to be an engineer, not everybody needs to do business education. I think you have to
True.
find that passion inside you, and see where that takes you. Yeah.
And I'll just make a comparison between two cultures. In the US, most business schools are not more than 30% engineers. They come with a healthy background of students from arts, theater, humanities, sciences, languages that want to pursue an MBA. India has traditionally, again, the II and the premier institutions have basically been
Heavily
the
focused. Yeah.
selection, yeah, no, the selection process is so
So skewed.
intense that
Yeah. Yeah.
and not it's not a selection process, it's a weeding out elimination
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those students who come out and they are able to crack this so-called cat and that and zat and mat are where things kind of get and I think that's changing. There is much greater focus on diversity, and some of the schools that the ISBs of the world and the BITSOMs of the world are doing is really putting effort into diversity, gender diversity, what kind
And
of background people are coming from. So I think
and
it's a very
honestly,
open question.
yeah, and honestly, the entrance score or the entrance test is just one day's performance,
Yeah, and
right?
that too, you've had a bad day or a
If
good
you've
day, I
had a
don't know.
bad day or a good day, who knows, right? So what
Yeah,
an application and an admissions process, at least the BSM process, looks at is like a general academic bucket. Will you be able to take the academic rigor of the course?
yeah,
Have you taken initiatives in the past? What kind of attributes do you bring? So all of this has weights. So, you may have a low CAT score, or you may have a low 10th grade score or a 12th grade score. That doesn't disqualify you for the BSM program. We look at the whole package,
yeah,
right? So,
absolutely.
yeah,
I
yeah.
always argue that a lot of people who did not get into so-called the traditional IIMs are as good or better than them.
Absolutely.
They might have just missed out by 4 percentile points or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I don't give much credence to these standardized elimination tests.
Gelda, I think we are running out of time, but it's
Yes,
up
ma'am.
to you.
We
Yeah.
are kind of running out of time. So we have a lot of questions that are around admissions and that are around placements. So let's just take placements first. And could you help maybe understand what are the kind of placement processes that you have and the kind of recruitment and the kind of brands that the institution attracts?
So
So I
there's
think we,
I think the brands are all listed on our website. Okay, there are some of the top 40, 50 brands that we have relationships with. Placement process I've already elaborated. We are going to have a strong career services office that will work one-on-one with our students. Third, I've already alluded that we are building an industry board that will work with us, with our students in various capacities. And what was the fourth thing? Yeah, those are the three things that I'm really focused on.
yeah, yeah.
I don't worry about placements. I know you do. I don't, because I think they'll happen.
You know,
Somebody
yeah,
says I
Got
have
it.
63%
Thanks
in
a lot.
CAT 24.
we
I don't
just
think you should. Yeah,
we
this
just
is 60.
answered that, right? You
Yeah.
know, everybody should consider this because it's a holistic evaluation process, and CAT on its own doesn't have just all the weightage.
Yeah. So the other answer to this would be I have 80% in CAT. Will is admission guaranteed? My answer would be no.
No, absolutely. Yes, Gelda, you want to ask other admission questions?
No, I think students, if you all have admission related questions or placement related questions, most of the detail is listed out on the on the website. And if you want to directly get in touch with the representatives of Bhatruka Institute of Management, then you can directly go to their official discussion forum on the PaGalGuY platform. Thanks a lot, Dr. Prabhu and Nidhi, for having this wonderful, wonderful conversation on our platform with PaGalGuY. We had some really interesting takes that we are, taking away from this particular webinar. So thank you. Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you so
everyone,
much.
for joining us for today's webinar.
Thank
Wonderful,
you.
wonderful evening, everybody.
Thank you very much, Gelda. Really appreciate your moderating. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you
Agarwal.
very much,
Bye-bye.
Nidhi. Thank you
Thanks
for
a
all the
lot,
people who were able to join us. Thank you
attendees.
very
Yes,
much.
absolutely. Hope to see you guys soon. Bye-bye.